Hey y'all, and welcome back to another video of My Creative Life with Kel Sweetie, where we read books, we make art, and happy October 1st. As I'm recording this is October 1st. I know by the time that y'all watch this, it is not. We are like a couple of days into the Halloween season, which I'm so excited. Today we're talking about my TBR and my September wrap-up, which will be short. It's not a bad wrap-up, it's just short because I'm coming up off of a slump. And I don't know, I also like started to read something that I feel like just overwhelmed me no matter how good it is. So let's get into those reads. I'm really excited to share with y'all what I'm reading this October. I'm reading some classics and some things that I've been meaning to get to for a while now and have been highly recommended to me. So let's get into my intro and everything. I have a giveaway, so wait till the end for that. I'm really excited. I've gotten some doubles of some books recently, and I thought, why not give them away instead of just having, I would have just donated them anyway. So I might as well donate to one of y'all. Okay, I'll see y'all. So like I said in the intro, September was weird. September was good weird, but it was weird. And excuse this hair because I'm growing it back out, and I just washed it and it's in that weird state where it's just floppy. So if it's dripping or it's weird or whatever, or I keep on fixing it unnecessarily, this is the pain of growing your hair back out. Yeah, September was really weird. It was cool. I read some great books, but it was also strange in the sense of like, there were so many things that I wanted to get to, and I think that it was possible for me to get to them, but Our Share of Night really slowed me down. So just a recap, if you've not seen my September TBR video, I planned on reading Monstrilio, Piñata, Our Share of Night, Pink Slime, and The Hacienda, which I still feel like was a strong TBR. I didn't get to Pink Slime because it's stuck in Libby jail. Like, it still is waiting on hold on Libby. I don't know if everyone in the world decided they wanted to read Pink Slime recently. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe everybody had the same idea. I've heard that book's gotten a lot of great reviews lately, and there were a ton of copies, so I'm not understanding why it's taking me so long to get it. But basically, September went by and I still haven't gotten Pink Slime. I'm actually, like, concerned it's gonna, like, unlock or, like, get out of, like, Libby jail sometime in October, and I'm not gonna be able to read it because I'm gonna be busy reading my other TBRs, and it'll get pushed back in, the musical chairs of doing Libby. And then The Hacienda got pushed to the side because, in all honesty, I wanted to read it, but it's like a gothic story, and it seems great, but it also seems me and gothic stories just don't, I'm cool with them, I respect them. Like, I read What Moves the Dead, very gothic, fine. Read Interview with the Vampire, loved it, but it was very, very gothic, and I found that, like, I can respect that genre, but I'm not necessarily like, okay, I need to read that now. I may double back to it sometime in December because it feels like a gothic novel would be good for December, and right now December is shaping up to be a bit of a free-for-all for my end of the year, like, mad dash to try and hit my goal, which right now I am sitting, according to Goodreads, I'm 8 books behind my goal. So that's scary. Hopefully, like, between this last quarter of the year, we'll just really kick it up and I'll be fine. I need to knock out some novellas maybe and, like, speed that up, but, like, I don't have any real novellas on my TBR for me to just, like, read. So we'll see. Let's get into this September TBR, like, September wrap-up. It's not even a TBR. My September wrap-up. I started off the month really strong reading Monstrilio. I get it. I love it. I absolutely appreciate the hype. I loved this book. I gave it, I believe, a 4. I get the hype. I love this book. I even a 4, like a 4 is still a great rating. I don't know like if people are just kind of like, so why didn't you like give it a 5? It was for territory. It's not like it changed my brain chemistry. I think 5s, because at one point I was flippant with my 5s. 5s have to change my brain chemistry because for this to sit in the same realm as the women could fly, I feel like it's too high. Like I would even give it maybe a 4.5 or something along those lines. But if you've not read Mr. Leo, it's basically a Frankenstein retelling for the most part. Two parents lose their child and the mother basically makes a new one out of the lung of the one who passed. And it's about, Monstrilio growing up and learning about himself and what does that mean being himself, coming up from a family that only means to love and protect him, and while mainly accepts him for who he is, does not feel like the world itself would accept him for who he is, and so therefore protects him from it. I think that this was a really beautiful book in the sense that a lot of queer stories that we hear or that are in big popularity about family, they're usually found family. And you're forced to find that family because your own family doesn't accept you fully for who you are. What I loved about Monstrilio is that it wasn't that. It was your family loves you, your family accepts you, but your family also realizes the world at large and what it is, and is trying to protect you from that world. And I thought that that was a really great, like, new story. I feel like the whole, tragic queer tale of my family hates me and doesn't understand me, completely relevant, completely understandable, relatable, the whole nine, and true. But there are also families and dynamics where your family itself loves and accepts you. Your family dynamic is afraid of the world around you that doesn't. And that I feel like is even more of a conversation now more than ever, as, we're in this season of politics and being queer and having those rights and what does that mean and how do people accept you is a hot topic more than ever. So I loved reading this. I loved the story and the plot of it. I hated the mom. Like, Magos really was just annoying and extremely selfish. But I actually loved the father. And I loved that through accepting Monstrilio and his upcoming and M's understanding of himself and his queerness and everything, it seems like his father did the same, which I thought was really beautiful because, again, I feel like we hear a lot of son, father, queer tales where that's mainly where the lack of acceptance is. And so I feel like Monstrillo really, really did something different here in telling that side of the story because those stories do exist. And I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was beautiful at the end. And it just wasn't 5 territory because for me, it's like, I cried during The Woman Could Fly. So now my whole idea of what a 5 is like a whole different ballpark. So I still would rate this a 4 or 4.5 and recommend it to anyone. It absolutely deserves all the hype it's received. The next book that I read was Piñata by Leopoldo Gout. And this was amazing. Loved it. I highly recommend for you to check it out on audiobook if you can, mainly because there is a lot of Nahuatl words in here, and you are gonna need, so if you've never read or heard pronunciations of those words, you're going to need a little bit of help on hearing how they're actually said, and I appreciate that. I think that it was really atmospheric. I love the narrator that they chose for this. I think that the narrator did a really amazing job of doing all of the different characters in here. Another one where I really loved how it took these stories that we're usually talking about and it kind of dug deeper, it just had a different perspective in the conversation of our ancestors. I think a lot of times, people of color, we talk about our ancestors in this very reverent way. And that's beautiful, and we should. But what we don't talk about, because of how bloody our histories are, is how upset our ancestors may be, how much revenge and hate may be in some of our ancestors' hearts, and because of what was done to them, which is completely understandable considering. And I think that this book talks about that. It talks about, Mexico and conversion and colonialism and the literal like pillaging and murder of an entire like society, but also culture, in order to bring in Catholicism, and how the idea that those same ancestors who experienced that probably wouldn't be angels. Probably wouldn't come back necessarily going, all is well, we only need reparations. Instead, it's more so, no, we want revenge and we want to take back what's ours. And I think that that's an amazing concept, because I think that's a very realistic concept. And I thought that the possession in this story is really great. Luna, who is the youngest of the Sanchez family, is the one who ends up getting possessed. Of course, we love possession stories of young girls. We have learned that from one of the other classics I'll be reading in October that's on this list. But basically, I also loved how there were so many conversations of culture shifts and being second and third generation immigrants, and how does that pass down bloodline to bloodline. These conversations of our ancestors' religion versus the colonialization and conversion of Catholicism or religion and people of color. I think that it's a very interesting concept and conversation that a lot of us people of color did not start out the gate in Christianity, especially not as it is portrayed now in the evangelism of it all. And that those who practice some of those ancestral religions and practices are seen as that's, devil or dark or whatever the case is, when it's literally our ancestors' practices. And how deep the conversation of conversion really goes, and what does that mean in regards to your identity and who you are, and what you deem to be, religious or faithful or light or dark or whatever these cases are. I think that Leopold did an amazing job of bringing those concepts up, but he didn't get lost in them. Like, I feel like there were a lot of things that were brought up and topics in this book that were brought up that they didn't necessarily feel like, oh, like, wow, you really took on a huge topic and then you kind of got lost in it. You weren't able to kind of like finish them out. I think that they were brought up in a way that made you think, but it never promises to give you any solutions or answers about it, but more so, here's a conversation that you should be having. And I appreciated that. And I think that it was a very smooth way that they went about doing it. I really recommend it, especially if you love possession stories, because the build of this story and where it kind of goes, and even where the ending goes, it's very different than your usual possession story. And I really enjoyed reading it. So again, I think I gave, this one 4 stars. This was a 4-star for me. So September's going great. It's going a little slow because I'm editing a lot of videos, to be honest with you, more than usual, and I'm also not driving around as much, so I wasn't getting as much audiobook time in as I usually am. So I'm probably like halfway through the month by the time I finish Piñata. That's when I start Our Share of Night, which y'all saw me start on our reading sprints last month. This is a thick book. It's a thick book for me. I know for somebody else out there, they're like, that's not that thick. This for me is it's a thick book. It's nearly 600 pages, and that's a lot for me when I'm usually averaging around 300 to 400. The audiobook for this was 27 hours. Yes, 27 hours.
Do you know you have 30 minutes? Are you kidding me? 30, yes.
I feel like I'm like 25% in right now, currently, as I'm recording this. And I feel like it didn't need to be that long. I know somebody's gonna be like, You have to get further in the book to realize it, this, and the other, which is the reason why I do want to finish this book. I just don't think I'm going to finish it this month. I know that sounds crazy, but I really want to get to my October reads really bad. And I don't want to be put in a slump by a book that I feel like needs more of my attention, and I'm not willing to give it right now. And that's the thing, is that I don't feel like this is a bad book. I feel like right now my attention is short because of the slump I had and because of what I'm going through, like work-wise and stuff like that, that I am not prepared to have a book this long be read right now. I need like a gimme. And so I have not finished this book. I think that it's very interesting. I don't think that it was what I was expecting whatsoever. The main father character, I am not a fan of, but he's interesting. Always, always, the slogan around here is like, I don't have to like you, but you have to be interesting. And I definitely think that that's what I'm getting from this. But I do feel like there's a lot of backstory and internal dialogue and everything that makes this book as long as it is. Because what I've gotten in 20%, 25% of the book is barely anything. I love the concept of it. I love this dark magic and this family of like this coven of sorts, and like the tone and how dark these characters are. Like, these are dark concepts, and it's like there's children in cages in here. Like, there's a lot going on in here, and it's very, very, I think that it's a very great book if you want to read it for like, you know, the Halloween season, to be honest with you, because of all the topics in here. It's very scary. It's bloody, but not overtly so. It's visceral, but not overtly so. It's very sexual and messy. And I think that those things are all interesting. Again, I think this book is great so far. As far as like the writing is concerned, it's beautiful writing, it's a beautiful storytelling. I just don't know if I'm the audience for it because I'm not a thick book girly. I'm not. And this is a thick one. This is a thickie. I still have like 18 hours to go on this. And unless I do like a 24-hour read and I just knock this out, which is possible, I may do that sometime in October. I just don't think that time's right now. So I do recommend it. I just haven't finished it yet. I just wanted to put this on the end because that's basically it that I read for September. I know, it was very short. Now, I average around 4 to 5 books a month. That's usually my average. This month, I got 2.5 done. 2.25 done, to be honest. And I'm not going to take that as a loss because all of the books, honestly, were really great books, especially the 2 that I knocked out early on in the month. And again, like I said, I feel like Our Share of Night is beautifully written. I just think that it's a long one for me, and I also think that it's a long one for where I am in my reading right now. So that's my September. I think that it was still a good September. I just think that I was pulling myself out of a slump after trying to tackle House of Leaves in only a month, and that month being one of the craziest months I've had in a really long time, and then coming out of, what was that, July, and July just being a not that great of a reading month, like just reading lackluster thrillers and everything. And so I'm happy to say that I think that I'm out of the slump, but I don't think that I'm scot-free if I try and finish this. So I'm going to put this away for right now and pick it back up maybe sometime middle of October, maybe sometime in November. I'll like have a 24-hour read and like knock the audio of this out and like finally finish it, because I do want to finish it. I know that that's not like, it doesn't feel as like high energy as maybe it should as far as like a September TBR is concerned, and like for me saying like, oh, I had a bunch of 4-star reads, but that's the truth of it. Like, sometimes you gotta put a book down and come back to it later in order to avoid the slump. Because if I force myself to finish this, I'm gonna get halfway through October and not tackle any of these books that I have on my list, and I'm really excited for these books. So it's one of those times where you have to go, what are you more excited for? Would you rather finish or start a new book? And right now, I want to start a new book and come back to this. So there you go. Let's get into my October TBR because I'm really excited about it. Okay, October is here. And while I read spooky, scary, horror, crazy, unhinged books all year, that's my whole thing. It's always nice during October when everybody else is reading them for, just to feel like, oh, look, everybody else is caught up and you're not the weirdo who's reading like horror books right now. I'm reading some classics. I'm finally knocking out some classics during this time because, as y'all know, every month I try and do my reading around a heritage like celebration of some sort. Like last month was Hispanic Heritage Month, so that's where all of my reading, my TBR was surrounded by. October is Filipino Heritage Month, but I am trying to knock out more like Halloween horror classics that are already on my long TBR, physical TBR, and that's what I'm kind of putting at the forefront, is that I need to figure out and knock out some of these physical books that I have on these two shelves, because for me, this is a lot. Me having two TBR shelves. I know for some of y'all, you're like, oh, I have a whole TBR shelf. No, 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 no. I can't do that. My anxiety would be too high. So I'm going to try to knock out some physicals and some arcs that I was sent, as well as some things that have been on this shelf for quite some time. So to start off the month, I'm reading Slewfoot. I'm finally going to read Slewfoot. I'm really excited for this. It's not that long of a book, like looking at it. And I love, of course, all of the artwork in it. I did get the floppy paperback because I'm a paperback girl now. So many people have told me that this is an amazing book and have been obsessed about it. And Ellie over at Your Spooky Mom, my collaborator for Night Terror magazine, she has a book club called the Dread Reader Society, and they will be reading Slewfoot from now until the 17th of October. So I plan to try and knock this out in a week. I want to try and slowly knock out some chapters before I go to bed. So this will be an ongoing thing that I'm reading over the next 2 weeks physically. And I'm really excited. I don't know a lot about this book, so I'm going to read the back of it. I mainly picked it up because of the beautiful artwork and because it seems really witchy, and some people are like, it's also horrific, and it's just a perfect October read. So, set in colonial New England, Slewfoot is a tale of magic and mystery, of triumph and terror from acclaimed author and artist Brom. An ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood. The wild folk call him father, slayer, protector. The colonists call him the colonist. Call him Slewfoot, demon, devil. To Abatha, a recently widowed outcast, alone and vulnerable in her pious village, he is the only one she can turn to for help. Together they ignite a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in its wake. I love it. It sounds like the perfect witchy read for October. So that is what will be starting our TBR this month. Again, this is a physical read, and so I'm hoping that it really, I mean, as y'all know, I'm usually an audiobook girl. Like I'll read along with the audiobook, but the audiobook is getting done regardless. And usually when I read physically, I'm reading anthologies. And it's during our reading sprints and everything, which we will still be having reading sprints this month. We have brought those back, and honestly, it was a big help for me finishing up some things and knocking out some of all our share of night. So, hoping that by the time that's done, I actually will be done with this so that I can participate in the Dread Reader Society talk about this. But regardless, I'm really excited to start this. And the artwork is beautiful. Brom also has two other books, Krampus, which I plan on reading during December. I think that'll be my only like kind of Christmas read. I'm not really into reading like Santa horror personally, and they recently just released Evil in Me, which is like a 70s vampire psychedelic type of thing, and that seemed really cool, but I gotta knock out some of these before I get to that one. Next on the list, The Exorcist. So if you follow me on Instagram, you have already seen this amazing cover. They did a special, what is this? Perennial Olive edition is what this is. And they did some special limited editions for a bunch of like horror books. They also did Tananarive Dew's The Between, which actually looks gorgeous personally. I really love that cover even more so than the original. Lovecraft Country also got a cover rework, which looks, I mean, honestly, it looks better in person. I wasn't thinking too much of it, and then I saw it in person in the bookstore, and it looks amazing. I think they did a Clive Barker one as well. I'm trying to think of, I think there was an Edgar Allan Poe one personally that they did. I'm trying to think of all of them, but they all were amazing. But this one, the Exorcist one, amazing. I have been wanting to read The Exorcist for a while, and ever since the beginning of the year, I was like, I'm reading The Exorcist this year for Halloween, and I'm going to finally watch the movie. Yes, I know, I'm a poser. I've never seen The Exorcist. I love horror films and horror books and stuff, and I've never seen The Exorcist. And I thought, what better way to finally watch the movie than to read the book fresh and then watch the film? And I was talking to Roxanne by Bun here on YouTube about it during our book club, which check that out. Check out my Patreon. We have a monthly book club meeting, which basically we don't assign any books. We just talk about the books that you've read that month and like basically talk all books. It's a lot of fun. But we were just talking about, she was saying, I wish that I could be you, where you're like reading the book and you're watching the movie for the very first time, because most people don't know that it's based on a book in the first place. So no one, not a lot of people get to have that opportunity. So this is the amazing cover. Yes. It's nightmare fuel. I know. And that's why I absolutely love it. It's also it's bright. I love that it's bright and everything. The original, I kind of want to, any classics that I read, I kind of got into collecting like vintage paperback horror books after reading Paperbacks from Hell by Grady Hendrix, because I have such an appreciation for them. They're so beautiful. I really didn't like the original for The Exorcist, so I'm glad that I found this, because I also don't really like the one that's currently being sold as the modern cover. This one was perfect, and it came at the perfect time, so I'm really excited. This was $12, and so I think it was even cheaper than the actual one that the normal one. So this was a win-win in my opinion. The Exorcist. I'm pretty positive that it's just like, I've never read the actual like the actual synopsis, that's the word. I do books before on like The Exorcist. And I don't think, okay, here we go. I'm going to read it to you because I've never actually read the synopsis on The Exorcist. Originally published in 1971, The Exorcist was a best-selling literary phenomenon and one of the most frightening and controversial novels ever written. Based on true events, a child's demonic possession in the 1940s is the story of 11-year-old Reagan McNeil, whose sudden, disturbing, and often violent behavior drives her desperate mother, Chris, a famous actress, to eventually seek help from two Catholic priests, men who risk everything, including their own souls, to free the girl from an ancient, malevolent force possessing her. Purposefully, Jesus, raw and profane, this novel still has the extraordinary ability to shock readers and cause them to forget that it is just a story. Very exciting. The reason why I wanted to read The Exorcist is because I have heard so many people who are into horror, many horror readers, when I ask them, what is your favorite horror novel? They go, top 5, Exorcist, The Exorcist. And I've always thought, like, maybe it's overhyped. But after hearing that so many times, I'm like, well, I have to figure out what everybody's been reading. So I'm finally reading The Exorcist. I am super excited about this. This and Slewfoot are going to be my first reads for this month. So just prepare yourselves, because this is as horror Halloween as it gets, and I'm really excited for this. So I cannot wait to read it and then finally watch The Exorcist, which I found out recently, the whole thing around The Exorcist, and I want to do kind of like y'all know how I love doing all this like backstory and like research. I want to see like they locked people into the theaters when they first released The Exorcist, and they had like these windows installed above the screen so that you could see people walking past them and stuff, like in the book, like in the movie. I want to do some research on that because that's awesome. Why don't we do those experiences anymore in the movie theaters, especially with all these horror films now coming out, because we're in that I feel like we're in a horror movie renaissance right now, like a resurgence of it. And I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm glad to be here. But I really do want to look that up because I thought that was really interesting. That was something else that Roxanne told me about, and I thought that was a lot of fun. So, The Exorcist. This is one of the things that I have to finish no matter what. This is getting finished this month no matter what. Next on this classic is Silence of the Lambs. I picked up this great copy of Silence of the Lambs sometime earlier this year while I was thrifting, and I was like, oh, I definitely finally have to read this book. I've watched the movie tons of times, and I forgot that it was actually based on a book, so I'm really excited to read it. I'm so happy to have this copy. I hope that I enjoy it. I mean, if you don't know what Silence of the Lambs is about, let me read the synopsis to you. In the realm of suspense and terror, Thomas Harris stands supreme. The Washington Post calls him simply the best suspense novelist working today. Here is his New York Times bestseller that won unrivaled acclaim as the best thriller of the decade. She is Clarice Starling, young, vulnerable FBI trainee. He is Hannibal Lecter, brilliant, evil genius. Theirs is a mesmerizing struggle between good and evil, designed to stop a killer and guaranteed to chill your blood. On the loose is a psychotic killer, locked away as a psychopathic madman. To catch one, the FBI needs the other. I mean, if you've not, like, seen Signs of the Lambs at this point, or, like, heard about what it's about, then, But I'm excited to read this one, too. Again, another classic. All in all, this one isn't that long, and I think that's the other thing, too, is, like, what's the font looking like on The Exorcist? So this one's like tad bit smaller. But again, like these are around 400, and that's usually where I clock a book that I'm reading, around the 300, 400 mark. And both of these are that. So I think it's both doable. I want to read one after the other because I feel like those are absolute classics. And now reading the book and then watching the movie is probably going to hit different because it always does. Speaking of books and reading them and then watching the movie and seeing how they hit different, American Psycho. I have wanted to read this book for an extremely long time. Like, before I was even really into horror, I wanted to read this book because I had watched the film, and the film's based on the book. And I tried reading a little bit of another Bret Easton Ellis book, and I wasn't really into it, to be honest. But I did want to read American Psycho, the book, mainly because I want to know the train of thought. Now, I've heard mixed reviews on this. Now, the mix really comes from people who don't really read a lot of horror in the first place. I've heard some people say that it's a bit boring because it seems like he's very methodical, just going through about his day, and that it's not necessarily plot-driven, it's very vibe-driven, which I'm cool with because at the end of the day, Patrick Bateman's a psychopath, and he's a sociopath, and so the idea that he's basically giving you this grocery list of his day-to-day and the monotony of it in between him doing these brutal murders, I think is really interesting to break down and look at. And I think it'll give me a better insight even into the mind of Patrick Bateman that we can't even get into with the film because there's only so much you can do with film. So I'm really excited to read this one. I think that, I'm hoping that I'll be in the majority that's like, oh, I love this book, and that it's not like a drag, because I've wanted to read this book for an extremely, very, very, very long time. I'm also glad that I got this copy because, yeah, it feels very, like, this reads well. This is the book that reads. If you don't know what American Psycho is, let's read the synopsis for you real quick. Patrick Bateman is handsome, well-educated, intelligent. He works by day on Wall Street, earning a fortune to complement the one he was born with. His nights he spends in ways we cannot begin to fathom. He is 26 years old and living his own American dream. That's already weird because when I watch American Psycho, I'm clocking Patrick at 32, 34. To know that he's actually 26 is wild because I'm like, you're younger than me, kid. So, also, I'm pretty positive this, like, they took place in the 80s in the movie. And I'm wondering if that's the same in the book. Again, not sure. And that synopsis doesn't really give you much more other than that. Here's the thing. And I think I'm setting myself up here. Of course. American Psycho is not available on audiobook. It's really strange. It's available in many different languages on audiobook. It is not available in English on audiobook. I have checked. At least not available. I've checked libraries. I've checked Libby. It's not available. There may be possibly one available like to buy, but I'm not buying this audiobook. Or it may be like an Audible special or something along those lines. Again, I'm not going to buy it. But I have tried to look it up. If you know where it is, please put them in the comments down below because, yeah, I would love to have another audiobook accompaniment to this. Actually, I would have loved, I think there's something on YouTube I found where somebody took AI with like Chris, it's not Chris. What's his name? My brain. Whoever plays Patrick Bateman in American Psycho, the movie. They basically took AI and he's reading all of this, which I thought was cool. But then he was like, oh, you have to pay for the rest of it. And I was like, again, I'm not paying for the audiobook, no matter how cool that honestly would have been. So here we are. This is another physical read. And is the pile really building up on my physical read, knowing that I'm not a physical reader? Absolutely. American Psycho's next on the list. Finally, my anthology for the month. And that is The Wishing Pool by Tananarive Due. I was actually sent this. Right? I'm cool. I got sent a Tananarive Due book by Akashic Books. They're the ones who published this collection of work. And I'm so excited to read it. It is on audio. And I got it on Libby recently. This is an anthology and collection of stories. So here's my anthology for the month. But because it was an audio, I was like, okay, well, I probably won't knock it out during my reading sprints. But I am really excited to read it. I just can't believe I got, like, a Tananarive Due, like, art copy. Now, this book is already out, but regardless, I am very much excited. Let's read what some of these are. Oh, okay, I'll read this. It looks like it's a bio, but it's not. Tananarive Due's second collection of stories includes offerings of horror, science fiction, and suspense, all genres she wields masterfully. From the mysterious magical town of Gracetown to the aftermath of a pandemic to the reaches of the far future, Due's stories all share a sense of dread and fear balanced with heart and hope. In some of these stories, the monster is racism itself. Others address the monster within, each set against the supernatural or surreal. All are written with Due's trademark attention to detail and deeply drawn characters. This paperback reissue has 2 new stories, including the follow-up to the World Fantasy Award-winning story, Incident at Bear Creek Lodge. Very excited for this. Very excited to also have an anthology. As y'all know, last month I didn't have an anthology, which I wouldn't have finished it anyways. But y'all know that I love anthologies because it kind of feels like layups where it feels like, oh, I finished a story, let me finish another one, you know? It's all part of one book, but you're getting a full, like, plot. And I'm excited to read this one, especially because it was also sent to me. So thank you again to Akashic Books for sending me this. I'm super excited. As always, like, I never get used to, like, getting sent books, to be honest, at all. And so I'm really excited for this. I'm, like, looking at the press kit right now. Basically what I just read is all on there. But I'm really excited to read that. That is the lineup for my October. I am reading Slewfoot, The Exorcist, The Silence of the Lambs, American Psycho, and The Wishing Pool. Hello, Editing Kelsey, popping in here really quick to state I am also reading Model Home by Rivers Solomon. It is their brand new release. I got my pre-order in the mail after filming this video, and I want to read a haunted house tale by the same author who gave me the wonderful novel Sorrowland. So, will I be able to do all these books in 1 month? More than likely, absolutely not. But nonetheless, I wanted to make sure I mentioned that I am trying to read that book as well this month. So, yeah, let's continue on with the video. I am hoping that I didn't put too much dip on my chip, but we will see. Right now, I think what I have available in Libby is The Exorcist and The Wishing Pool. I'll be reading The Exorcist first, which I'm really excited for that. And also reading Slewfoot physically at the same time as a good night story, I guess. And then once I finish Slewfoot, I'll start reading American Psycho physically and just slowly moving through it. But I'm going to be doing so much work, and especially illustrative work this month because of my Trick or Sweet challenge. That I'm hoping I just have a lot of time to knock this out. I'm also doing the Halloween-a-thon by Kelsey over at Slime and Slashers, and so that takes a lot of movie reading, and I'm feeling like a lot's going on, but of course it would be. It's October, it's go time, this is what we're doing. I'm excited though. I'm really, really excited to read those books because some of them are classics and some of them have been sitting on this TBR show for quite some time. Like I said, there's so much here. You guys see this. There's a whole nother shelf sitting over here. And it's concerning. Now, did I have a werewolf? I have 2 werewolf novels right now that I could have read, and The Hacienda probably could have been pushed to this month, and 2 vampire novels that I have. Absolutely. And they will get read. Even Werewolf Z almost made this list. I don't know. Those are the classics. I need to knock those out. And some of those, I also need to quit buying books. We all know that won't happen. As long as there are books to be bought, I'll be buying books. As long as my TBR grows, as long as limited edition covers come out, I'll be buying books. So there you go. Speaking of buying books, speaking of having doubles, I recently got some doubles. One that were sent to me, and then I had another friend give me a book that was one of my favorites, and then I accidentally bought 2 of the same book. So I'm doing a giveaway. I've never done a giveaway on this channel. And it's October, so I felt like it would be, and we're last month we hit a year, so I thought, let me just do a giveaway of these books regardless. 3 books we have. We have Piñata, which I accidentally bought 2 of. That's how much I love this book, and I knew that I wanted to have this book. But then I put it on my shelves immediately after buying it and completely forgot that I had bought this book. So instead of taking it back, I'm going to give you guys a copy because this was an amazing book and I really want somebody else to read this. So we have a new favorite. We have an old favorite, House of Leaves. Now, you may be asking, Kelsey, why do you have another House of Leaves? The reason is, this is my top book of all time. The top book experience I ever had, reading a book, researching for a book, looking through the entire thing. It's a practically brand new copy. It is a brand new copy. And the reason why is because my best friend wanted to start reading. And she asked, what's your favorite book of all time? And I said, this book. And I said, but you don't want to read that book because it's really involved in all this other stuff. And she said, no, I want to try it. Let me read that book with you. She got 9 pages into the book and then never read it. That was about, I want to say 3 years ago. And this book has been a door stopper in her life. And she just recently moved. And she was like, Kelsey, I have this book. I'm going to donate it. Do you want it? And I said, sure. This book is brand new. It's brand new. So, I'll be giving away a copy of House of Leaves. An old favorite, a new favorite, and a hope-to-be favorite. Shush Sharp Teeth. I was sent this by Penguin Random House. As some of y'all know, like, I did an internship with them this last summer. It was a really great time. And they sent us some free books. Some interns some free books, and they asked what we were into. On my last day of my internship, as y'all already saw my book haul for, I blew the bank because they had like a 60% discount on their books. And I've been wanting to read this Rachel Harrison. And then they sent me another one. So I thought, well, this is going to get donated anyways. This is a hopeful to be new favorite. So I'm going to give it to y'all. So that's the lineup that I'm giving away. Are these 3 books. You may be asking, Kelsey, how do I get my hands on those wonderful books? Well, let me tell you. I would love for you to give me a follow over on Patreon. Now, you may be going, Kelsey, I love your work, I love your content and everything, I just don't have the funds to support you on Patreon, and that's perfectly fine. I do have a free tier over on my Patreon that still does get some more informational content, and I share other creatives of work that I'm obsessed with and things like that. You still are getting some stuff over there if you're not able to provide financially over on Patreon. It would really be a big help to me. I've just started it and I really want to build a community over there, and I know that some people just aren't financially in a space to support me over there, but that's why we have the free tier. So first, if you could give me a follow over there, that would be fantastic. I would love that absolutely. Also, I'll be posting a little post, that's the word, that'll be pinned on my page of what your favorite Halloween activity would be. That is where I want you to comment under that post. What would be your favorite Halloween activity to do? After that, we are going to vote on some of the best Halloween activities possible, and that is how you're going to win these books. Are mainly that. I know, it's pretty, like, straightforward. It costs no money to you, but it would be a huge support to me as well. I really appreciate y'all, like, following me after all this time and all the love that I got on my Halloween videos recently, and I'm hoping that you guys have an amazing Halloween. I'm expecting to have a busy one, but I'm excited for it. And I really do want to give y'all some of these books, but I really do want to build a community over there on Patreon, and this was kind of one of the best ways that I thought to do so. So check out my link to my Patreon down below in the description box, and I can't wait to hear some of y'all's ideas for, like, Halloween activities. I really, it's kind of also selfish because I kind of want to gather some things for me to do this year during the Halloween time. I want to go apple picking because I've never gone apple picking. I've gotten plenty of pumpkin patches, but never apple picking with my partner, and we're throwing our annual Halloween party, which I'm still going back and forth on what my costume is going to be. Right now, we're looking at Scully from the X-Files, because I'd look great in a 2-piece suit. And a red wig. A mobster's wife, like fur coat, real Sopranos type of thing, but like old school, real old school. And then, what was the other thing that I was thinking? Oh, I was thinking of being Nancy Downs from The Craft. And really it's just because I want to buy some, like, black goth stuff. So, we'll see. I already have the boots, to be honest, from when I was Winnie Sanderson, like, 4 years back. But the main thing is, I do want to really be the mobster wife, because I think that would be so much fun. But I have it in my mind that it's a fur coat. And I have to find a fur coat. And I live in Los Angeles. Finding a fur coat at the thrift store is not as easy as if I was sitting back at home in Ohio and thrifting around. So that is the main thing that I'm concerned about in trying to do that. We will see. But I'm excited. I'm trying to figure out now, like, I'm overwhelmed with all the possibilities, but I'm very, very much excited. I'm overwhelmed with the possibilities for even my reading for this month, But again, super excited. So thanks y'all for watching. I appreciate it. I hope that y'all's TBR for this month is really fun. I would love to hear, what is your favorite Halloween movie down in the comments, because I am currently working my way through, like I said, Simon Slasher's Halloween-a-thon, and I'm finding some new favorites and revisiting some old ones, and I would love to hear some more suggestions on Halloween films. I just finished Love Witch. I love the aesthetic. I love the idea of it. Wasn't my favorite film though. It got really, really, really strange at one point. And not strange in like a really moving way, like kind of boring, personally. I know a lot of people love that film. So I know that was supposed to be on my Trick or Sweet challenge, and I think I'm gonna switch it out for maybe an Eve's Bayou or something. Which, if you've not checked out Eve's Bayou, you should. Okay, I'm done I'm yammering. I'm yapping, I'm yammering. Thanks y'all so much for watching today's video. Please subscribe down below if you liked today's video and you're looking forward to all the crafting videos and Halloween videos that are coming up. I'm going to be decorating the outside of my house this week. I know I'm a little bit late, but we're doing it. And there's supposed to be a crafting video coming up for that, so make sure to check me out there. And I mean, there's so many ideas that are coming, but thanks y'all for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.